Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth in Rhythm, brought to you by funkenstuff.net. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. Available in video format at funkenstuff.net and on YouTube, Truth in Rhythm can also be enjoyed on the go in its audio podcast version from funkenstuff.net, iTunes, and most leading providers. I'm your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist and author of Everything Is on the One, the first guide to funk. If you don't have your copy, you better grab it.
I will grab it.
Whether you're listening or watching, as always, I thank you very much for your continued support. And you're going to be handsomely rewarded once again because, I got to say the term legendary gets thrown around kind of loosely sometimes. But my guest today is indisputably of that stature. I'm speaking of none other than the superlative trombonist, bandleader, arranger, and composer, Fred Wesley, best known for his landmark work with James Brown and his band, the JBs, and with George Clinton, including Parliament, Bootsy's Rubber Band, the Horny Horns, and other P-Funk acts and offshoots. Subsequent to that, Fred has gone on to record and perform in the jazz idiom, as well as funk it up under his own name with the JB Horns, featuring longtime sax-playing greats Maceo and Alfred Pee Wee Ellis. As if that's not enough, among the classic and unforgettable tracks Fred has imprinted with his indelible, one-of-a-kind bone tone are Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, Mother Popcorn, Hot Pants, Doing It to Death, More Peas, Gimme Some More, Same Beat, Damn Right I Am Somebody, Escapism, Licking Stick, The Payback, and Make It Funky. And that's just a sampling of his James Brown-related work from 1968 to 75. His amazing work with P-Funk from 1975 to 1983 included all their great songs on the seminal Parliament albums Mothership Connection, The Clones of Dr. Funkenstein, Funkentelechy versus the Placebo Syndrome and the Motor Booty Affair, also with Bootsy's Rubber Band, Stretching Out, The Name Is Bootsy, Baby, Bootsy Player of the Year, and so much more. In addition to those amazing achievements, Fred has also recorded with the likes of George Benson, Bobby Womack, Bill Laswell, Soulive, Marcus Miller, Hank Crawford, Idris Muhammad, and Esther Phillips, among so many others. All told, he has appeared on more than 150 albums. With a body of work that positions him as one of the principal architects and builders of the funk music genre, and in my purview, one of popular music's tastiest and most soulful horn players, Fred penned his engrossing 2002 autobiography, Hit Me, Fred, Recollections of a Sideman, and it's highly recommended if you haven't read it yet. Since then, Fred has continued to record and perform, as well as work with music students. In 2015, the Mobile native was inducted into the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame. Like all true innovators, his passion remains undiminished as he presently plays with multiple groups and keeps pushing the proverbial envelope by touring the world and experimenting with new sounds. I gotta say, pinch me, because I must be dreaming to be here with the one and only Mr. Fred Wesley.
How you doing? All right.
I'm doing great.
I'm just an ordinary guy who happened to fall into funk.
He's humble too. I understand you're coming to us from South Carolina today.
That's right. That's right. I'm near you.
Yeah, we got the Carolinas connection going here.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm feeling it. Feeling the love. All right. So you're ready to hit me by answering some questions today?
Okay, let's do it.
I was going through, to get ready for this, I was going through some of my vast music collection. And I, in doing so, it seems almost like half of my CDs and albums have you on there somewhere. So
see that?
So Fred, let's talk about, in Alabama, what it was like for you as a youth and how you got into music. I know you came from a bit of a musical family. So if you could take us through that and how you got to, your first sort of professional level of musicianship.
Well, my father saw me as a rebel because he was a piano player, sort of a jazz piano player with more of a entertaining sort of Buddy Johnson, Count Basie type of piano player. Had a big band. And so, but I wanted to play in his band. I played in his band. He let me play in his band. That's how I played trombone. He happened to need a trombone in his band. So he told me if I learned how to play the trombone, I could be in his band. So I learned how to play the trombone. It was just a temporary thing, I thought, you know. But I got calls from people all over town to play the trombone and to play the bass and to play the drums and the keyboards with every band that I could think of that was in Mobile, Alabama. So I became a professional. I was about 17 years old, and Ike Turner came to town, and he needed a baritone saxophone player. I couldn't play baritone sax, but I told him I could play trombone. So I played trombone in place of a baritone saxophone with Ike and Tina Turner. That's when Tina Turner was really Ike and Tina Turner, you know. But that's how I became a professional. Went on the road with Ike and Tina Turner. I was a freshman in high school. I mean, in college, and I quit college to go on the road with Ike and Tina Turner.
Wow. So what year about was that?
About 1962, somewhere around in there, you know.
Wow. And how old were you about when you first picked up the trombone?
Oh, maybe 12 years old. I was just about 12, and I was studying trumpet and saxophone. You know, I wanted to be a trumpet player like Lee Morgan or somebody like that. You know, Clifford Brown was a bad trumpet player, but my father told me that I could play in his band if I learned how to play the trombone. So I played the trombone, you know, and I've always tried to play the trombone to sound like a trumpet or a saxophone, but I think that's how I developed my own type of sound, you know, because I'm trying to sound like Lee Morgan or Clifford Brown or somebody like that, you know.
I think a lot of great musical innovations seem to come from trying to make an instrument, you know, fill in for something else or sound like something else.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but that's how you get the original sound, you know, because if I had to play it just like J.J. Johnson, who's an idol of mine, I would be just known as a good trombone player if I could have ever reached the proficiency that JJ was at, you know. But I played the trombone, try to make it sound like Lee Morgan, so it got a twist there, and so I sound like Fred Wesley, you know.
So did you have any formal training, or you just kind of played by ear, or what?
I had formal training in the beginning on trumpet and saxophone, but I had a little training with E.B. Coleman, who was my teacher in Mobile, my high school teacher, and my band, John Irons, who was my band teacher in high school. But I never really had any formal training until I got in the Army, and I had about 2 months of intense formal training from a trombone player named Joe Phillips, who was in the Navy, in the Army, in the Navy, at the music school, the military school of music in Little Creek, Virginia. So I got a little formal training from him.
Oh, so did you get deployed anywhere?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was in the Army band, and when I was in service, this was about 64, I think it was. And instead of going into the infantry, the airborne, they put me in the band. I was glad because I could play. I could further my musical experience in the band in the Army, and it was a great experience too because I played. I had my formal training, then I went to a band that played mostly jazz, you know. So that's how I got my big band training. That's how I was able to play with Count Basie and other big bands around Los Angeles, you know, because I had Army training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We may be getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I'm thinking, you know, that Army training, that regimentation and all that, and that preciseness probably was pretty good, you know, schooling to get ready for, you know, James Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what transpired between, you know, your service and getting with James Brown? Who else did you play with, and how did you connect with James Brown?
I was in the Army, and I had my own band. I had a band called the Master Sound. Walter Orange, Clyde of the Commodores, he played with my band, you know. And when that band broke up, and that's when I went back to Mobile, and I just happened to get a call from Pee Wee Ellis, and asking me about playing with James Brown. Now I didn't want to play with James Brown. I wanted to play with some jazz artists like Horace Silver, the Jazz Messengers, Art Blakey, something like that. I was still practicing on the trombone. I had gotten pretty good on trombone. I thought I was the stuff on trombone. So I went back to Mobile, and I was continued to gig around. And Pee Wee Ellis called me, asked me if I wanted to be with James Brown. And so I thought about it, and then I took the job because I thought it was a way to get out of Alabama and get to New York or to Los Angeles somewhere and be heard and be picked up as a great jazz trombonist. I just look at James Brown gig as a temporary gig also.
Hmm. So then this is like around 68, is that right? When you first?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you audition for James, or how did you ultimately become part of his band?
Well, I was recommended by Pee Wee Ellis and Wayman Reed, and who had heard me play before, and Bernard Odom and John Starks Jabbo, who was in the band already. So they vouched for me, but James told me I would have to stay on the side of the stage and listen to the band and see if I liked it and see if they liked me, And so that's how I got into the band. I was on the band for maybe a month, listening to stuff, And I was really impressed with the band. I was glad I was in James Brown band after a while because it was a hot band. It was real tight. They played a little jazz, And I was really glad to be in that band.
When you first got into it, Fred, what was like James's biggest hit at that point? Was it Cold Sweat? Was it after that? Where was it?
Cold Sweat.
Yeah.
We had tried to play Cold Sweat. I didn't like it. I did not like Cold Sweat. I mean, I hate to tell people this because they think I'm crazy, But I say Cold Sweat is all wrong, It's all jumbled up with that bridge. And I think you can't do music like that, So I did finally get to like Cold Sweat when I was in the band. I was in with the band, with James Brown band. I met Pee Wee Ellis, who had been instrumental in writing Cold Sweat. And, I really liked him. So I listened to Cold Sweat again, and he explained some things to me, and I got to like it after a while. Cold Sweat was the hit at that time. I met Maceo, Maceo played the tenor saxophone solo. So I was glad to be a part of that,
Wow, what an amazing, now, just legendary lineup. So did you have any nervousness, playing in front of a crowd or playing in an audience or moving to the front? Did you really relish being a side person? Did you want more limelight?
Oh, I was definitely a side man. I feel to this day, I feel most comfortable on the side of the stage playing my part, But yes, I was really a side man, because I met all the cats. I met Maceo. Maceo was an out front guy, and he was a real gregarious type of entertaining type of person, and I like Maceo. I mean, I really like Maceo. He's one of my best friends. Till this day he is, But and Pee Wee Ellis, I saw him as a mentor. He told me what to do and what not to do, and he would write things down for me, and I was impressed. I was really impressed with this band, So but I was most comfortable on the side of the stage, playing my part to the best that I could,
So what was the first record that you recorded in studio with that band?
Say It Louder, I'm Black and I'm Proud. That was the first one I did, We was in California having fun, and they came to the hotel and said, James, want you everybody in the studio. Everybody in the studio. So that means we had to stop what you were doing, get in the car and go to a studio way out in the valley somewhere. I don't know where it was, but we did Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Yeah.
Wow. Did you have a sense at the time that, hey, this sounds like a hit?
I didn't know what it was. It was a tune that we had been putting together on stage. Every day on the stage, they would we would have rehearsal, and everybody would blow a certain part. Pee Wee would give it to him. James would come in and add his part to it. So we had this tune down, but it didn't have a title. It didn't have a lyric or anything. Just da 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 da. We just knew that as the riff. So when we went to the studio, I found out we were playing this tune. And we played it, and James said it loud. A bunch of kids said, "I'm black and I'm proud." So that's the way it happened.
And I mean, that record was so influential too, just for the Black Pride movement and all that. So did that strike you as well, that you were making a difference, in terms of society with a song like that?
I was completely oblivious, because I didn't know what was happening. I do know that we recorded a tune, and when we got to Houston, from California, we played Phoenix and six cities in between Los Angeles and Houston, Texas. About 2 weeks, James went on stage and said it loud, and everybody said, "I'm black and I'm proud." And I couldn't believe it. I said, how could a record get recorded out, everybody hear it all over the world, all the way to Houston, Texas, and they responded to it? Like, I had never heard anything like that. James Brown was the master of getting the record out and around the world as soon as possible. He was a master at doing that. I don't know how he did it. Still don't know. But when we got to Houston, everybody was black and proud.
Wow. That give you some goosebumps when you're up there and experiencing something like that?
Oh, it was more than goosebumps. I was taken aback. I was really surprised, and I must have looked surprised, because it was a tremendous feeling to me and everybody else. I think they were amazed as I was. That it could happen like that.
Yeah. Wow. So, so you were being shown the ropes by, guys like you mentioned, like Pee Wee and so forth. But at some point, you kind of moved more forward in terms of being more of a band director, a musical director, and that kind of thing. So how did that evolve?
Well, over the time, I finally got in the band, and I was like Pee Wee's assistant. I used to copy music for him and driving from place to place. I was just his assistant for a long time. So when he left the band, and he left the band rather dubiously, they told now James knew what I had been doing. He knew I was assistant to Pee Wee, so he just assigned me. I was the band leader until he could find a real band leader. So I was leading the band, and that's how it happened. Pee Wee left, and I just slid into his position.
What year was that, would you say?
Maybe 69, 60, late 68, something like that.
So the band was constantly recording or performing. I mean, it must have seemed kind of like a blur. Did you ever have any downtime?
Not really. I'm writing a book now about the in between time now. That's my next book. It was just play, rehearse, record. It was like a whirlwind thing. Sometimes soon we record one record, you hear it on the radio, and we recording something else and something else, and some things it'll play on the radio, some things wouldn't. But it was constantly record, gig, ride the bus, write music, and just totally. It was chaotic, but it was organized chaos, like George Clinton said.
Yeah. So what was it like working with James, both in studio and on stage?
Well, first he was the boss. that was undisputable. He was the boss. So it was in the studio. You just play what he told you to play. Uh, no matter how ridiculous it sounds at the time. Because he would tell me to play a note, and I find me a note. I just keep on until he said that's it. And so whatever I did would be that's it. That's the way he uh, uh, with everybody. He did that with everybody. Everybody would play what he said until they found something, and he would say that's it, and so that would be it. So tunes were put together like that. James would say what to play, and Pee Wee would either translate it to us, or he would go directly to the guys in the band. He would usually go directly with the drummer and the bass player and the guitar player. But the horns, Pee Wee would say, "Well, play this note," and voice the horn, so to speak. And that's the way tunes came together.
He's notorious for, running a tight ship and being the boss and all that, and the fines and everything. Did you kind of manage to steer clear of that for the most part? Or did you ever get in a little hot water with the boss?
No, I never did anything wrong. They would, he would say fines and stuff. I would see people get fined, but I usually agreed with them. They come late, be out of uniform or whatever, and you get a fine for something like that. I could understand. And everybody else understood too that there was going to be a fine if you do something that was against the prevailing rules at that time. So yeah, it was okay. As long as you didn't directly challenge James, he was cool with you. Just say yes, sir, Mr. Brown, and do what he said. And as long as you did that, everything was all right. Once you crossed him, though, then you had a problem, because he would not lose an argument or fight. He would not lose.
When spending all those years with him, Fred, do you feel like you got to know James Brown the man at all, or did he always kind of have a bit of a wall up? And if you did, what do you think of James Brown the man?
I don't know if I got to understand James. I understood where he was coming from and why he was coming from where he was coming from. So I understood how to work with him, and I'm not sure, but I think he kind of liked me too, because he understood where I was coming from, and he understood that I would do whatever he said. We had one riff. He thought that I had done the horns on George Clinton's Chocolate City album. And I told him I didn't do it. I didn't even know George, and I hadn't even recorded. I had never heard Chocolate City until then. I would listen to it, that's not me, So he always thought that I lied to him about that. I never lied to him. I always told him the truth, whether it was to protect myself or protect him. I told him the truth all the time, But he just was sure that I had done the horns on Chocolate City. You giving them cats our stuff. You're supposed to give us this. This is house there here. Blah blah blah. You get stuff like that. I said, I didn't do it, Mr. Brown. I didn't do it. And but years later, he finally found out I really didn't do it. And that's the only thing, because I understood how to work with him, what pushed his buttons, what didn't push his button, what made him happy, what didn't make him happy. I understood all of that for the most part. Sometimes I would make a mistake, but that's how we got along together, and we got real close. I think maybe he might have really liked me, but I don't know. I don't know if he did or not. It seemed like he would do whatever he could to keep me from having fun. He wanted me to work all the time the way he did. He wanted me to work as hard as he worked, and I made him think that I was working as hard as he was too. Which I wasn't. I did work hard though. I did work because I had to be on call, whether he called me 4 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. I had to be there for him. Come Fred, I would always go. So it was a strained, kind of a hard relationship for me, but I think he understood me as well as I understood him.
Do you remember the first time when he called you out in a song, you know, on record? When did he first say, you know, hit me Fred or Fred? I mean, yeah. When did that first happen?
I don't know if he I think Doing It to Death was the first one. I think so. He would say, do you remember what was that? I can't think of the name of the tune right now, but he might have called me out on that. I know that was the first solo I played with him, and he just pointed to me to play. You know, I don't know if he said, "Hey Fred," or "Hit me Fred," or anything. People get up and drive your fucking song. No. That's where the horn part went.
Yeah,
I can't think of the name of the tune, but I believe that was the first time he said Fred or something like that. Maybe not. Maybe he didn't do it. It was years ago. You know, 50 years. I can't remember.
Did he do it on stage first, or you think in the studio first?
In the studio first. The studio. Everything happened in the studio. Then we would transfer it to the stage.
So how'd you feel about that? Were you glad to be called out like that? Did you have fun with it?
It was all right, you know. I think maybe James found out I could do that, you know, so he had me to play against Maceo, you know, because Maceo was hot shit at that time, you know. He was the man, you know, and I, you know, I don't think James liked people being the man off of something that he did, you know. So he liked to have a man over here and a man over there. Maybe that's why he had two drummers, you know, drummer here. Then he said, "Oh, you ain't doing it. This drummer do it," you know. And so I think he had two soloists at the same time, you know, me and Maceo. But I don't know why he did it, but I'm glad he did it now because I'm a famous trombone player now. But at the time, look here, Pastor P. I said, I hope my people in Mobile don't hear this solo. This is the terriblest solo I ever played, you know. And because I was I was just shy about how simple the songs were and how they would sound to me, even to me back in Mobile where I first started. You know, I said I would laugh at this song. Pastor P, ba 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 ba. That's crazy, you know. Give me some more. Dee dee da da. I said, oh, that's really ridiculous. You know, I hope nobody in my hometown hears this. You know, because they'll laugh me out of town. You know, but now I hear it and it sounds perfectly normal. You know, this sounds kind of ancient too. You know, but I had to be forced into that. You know. I was forced into. Well, you know, James would say, "Hit me, Fred," and I would just go on and play by say, "I hope this don't be no hit," you know. You know.
And they were so influential too, those songs, you know, with, you know, groups like Average White Band, Pick Up the Pieces, and BT Express, and all these songs that were coming out that kind of replicated what you did with the JBs. Did you find that flattering, or did you say, "Hey, these guys are knocking us off"?
No, I found it flattering that somebody else actually liked these tunes, you know, and liked them to the point where they put it on their records, you know. So I was amazed, but I was more flattered than anything else.
Now, were you still with James? I think, weren't there some times before you ultimately left because of Chocolate City that you maybe were away for a bit and then came back? Or am I wrong?
Oh yeah, whole 1970, I was gone. I was excuse me. All of 1970, I was in Los Angeles. I moved my family to Los Angeles, and I figured at that time it was good for me because I had met a guy in Los Angeles named Preston Love. He was the contractor for the horns and for the whole bands for the Motown reviews and stuff like that. He said, if you move out here, I have you working all the time, you know. So I took that as a cue, you know. Me and James got into it over sing a simple song. He wanted to do the rhythm first. I wanted to do the horns first, you know. And so I quit and moved to California. And I thought I was gonna be working at all time, but Preston Love at that time he moved back to Omaha, and I was just out in LA. I met a few people, but I didn't have a uh, direct way to go to the studio, you know, to make some money. So I just did some odd things like I played with a band called Sam and the Good Timers, you know, and we did all right, but we didn't make big money like I went to California to make, you know. So after a year, I came back to James.
So like 71. So you missed when
Yeah.
Bootsy and Catfish were there, right?
Yeah, yeah. But that, you know, that's when James probably cut his best hits, you know, like Sex Machine. That was a monster. It was a big hit. I think that's the biggest single hit James ever had. Sex Machine. And then right behind that, Super Bad, amazing, you know, because you had Bootsy and Jabbo. They developed a thing, you know.
Soul Power too, right?
Soul Power. That Soul Power was what after I came back. I came back with Soul Power. You know that there was no horns on Sex Machine, no horns on Super Bad, but Soul Power had horns in it, you know, because I was back there. But Bootsy, Catfish, Jabbo, that combination was a super bad combination.
So you came back, and it was around that time when actually, or shortly after that, I mean, this happens to be probably my favorite JB album.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
The Big Payback is such an awesome track. Do you remember working on this one in particular?
Oh yeah. I was firmly ensconced in the band. Now it was like what James said, what I said. That was the way everything went. I was the second in command, you know. So we cut. I remember cut. Is Mind Power on that?
Yeah.
Mind Power. I said this ain't gonna work. It's too long, you know. And just but I did what James said. You know that's why that was the key to my success. I always did what he said, or made him think I was doing what he said. You know, because that's why he always trusted me. He trusted me to go in the studio with these bands and to direct his band when he wasn't there. You know, he trusted me. He knew I was going to always do, if not the right thing, I was going to do his thing. You know, I wasn't going to worry about being my thing. I was going to do his thing. A lot of it turned out to be my thing, though. But it still was an opportunity for me to elevate myself as a trombone player, as an arranger, and as a composer too, you know.
And you really branched out then too with Lynn Collins and
oh yeah,
a lot of the other acts, the JB albums, and I mean it was becoming a huge thing, an empire, if you will, in the early '70s.
It really was. Polydor Records gave us carte blanche, anything we wanted, anything we would write a contract for, boom, money flowed out of there. That crazy, you know. So it was a good time, but all of a sudden, somebody came in there and said, "We want to see what albums you're doing, on which artists, and we got to have a contract, blah blah, this and that." So everything was going to be more tight-fisted now from Polydor. You know, I think that's when they changed to Polygram. I don't know, but so the money stopped flowing, and one time, you know, James would always say things that made me mad, but I would just suck it up and go on, you know. But we was in Madison Square Garden. James said something that made me mad, and I quit. I just quit just like that. I told him, I said, is that the way you see it? I don't see it like that, and I quit, and I did. I left the band at that time.
So, and that was what year was that?
65, I think, early 65. I mean 75.
Okay, so that was when you left for good, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So did you already have sort of in mind what your next move would be? Had you already met, George Clinton or talked to Bootsy, or what was,
Yeah,
brewing?
I hadn't met George, but me and Bootsy had got to be friends. His last couple of months with James Brown, I was there, and we got to communicate and talk about music and talk about other things. We were good friends already. And he had told me, say, if I get something going, if I leave here and get something going, I'm gonna come back and get you in Maceo. So uh, we knew that was there because they had got a big hit. Chocolate City had come out, and Boosie told me, say, Fred, I'm gonna come and get you. And he did one night. One night they all came to the hotel I was staying in and played me that bum bum beat up, beat it, beat it, beat up, beat up, beat it, bum bum. Played that. I had never heard no funk like that. That was some amazing music. I said, yeah, I want some of this. And sure enough, when I quit James, I went over there and told him, I said, I'm here. Met George Clinton. They offered me a job. And I said, I'll do whatever, and bam, bam, it happened. I was glad to be away from James to a more free atmosphere with George Clinton. George Clinton told me to do whatever you want to do. If I like it, I'll use it. If I don't like it, I won't use it. That was a simple way to do things. So I just did the baddest shit I could think of. And it worked out.
So how did you come together with Rick Gardner and who was the fourth?
Maceo.
Well, Maceo, yeah, and then one more.
Kush.
Yeah. So how did you come together as the four?
Well, it was just a thing. Well, me and Maceo always gonna be tight, and so Kush came. The first album was recorded with some other trumpet players. Marcus Belgrade, famous trumpet player that had played with Ray Charles, and Maurice Davis, a studio trumpet player that I think his name Maurice Davis, around Detroit. So both of these guys we got from Detroit, and so we did Boosie's album, and I think some of the Parliament album, the Parliament-Funkadelic album. Anyway,
This one?
Yeah, part of that one, yeah. And that was Marcus Belgrave and Maurice Davis. And so I don't know how we got Kush and Rick, but we did have somebody said we knew a guy in California who could play high notes, and he's a great trumpet player and he's looking for a gig, So we went out there and we got Rick. So he came and he was enthusiastic about it, And I don't know why Kush came. Kush was our boy. We knew him from James Brown band, And I don't know if he had quit already or he was getting ready to quit. Anyway, Kush came on the band. We got the Horny Horn thing going, and it was amazing, the way I did, and Maceo and the two trumpets. It was really an amazing horn section.
Yeah. So, and I have, got a lot of records here, but I have, of course, the first.
Yeah, that was my baby. That was the first one, and that was all of us. Everything we could think of was on there,
Who came up with the Horny Horns name?
George Clinton's wife. I can't think of her name. It was his first wife, a second wife, I don't know. She was in the studio, and she just happened to say, "That sounds awful horny." And so that was it. Georgia Tech, whatever you say, get something out of it. You say anything you say, you better be careful because George Clinton grab hold to it and make something out of it. But anyway, I think his wife said that was awful horny, so we became the Horny Horns.
Well, you came in there, I mean, at a pivotal time, Fred, you know, when it all coalesced to make that, you know, the true P-Funk, and that just classic period. Describe a little bit more, you know, what was Bootsy like at that time, and what was the whole scene like in the studio creating that?
Did you read the book?
Yes, been 15 years, but yeah.
Well, you know, Bootsy and Catfish, they were the main thing about the funky music, you know. Bootsy and his brother Catfish, and Gary Shatter, Bernie Warrell, Boogie, Glenn Goins, all those cats. They just glummed into what Bootsy was doing, you know, and created some of the baddest rhythm tracks that I had ever heard in my life. It was a brand new kind of funk. It was a louder, more brash, and it was just something fresh but funky. You know, we that's where funk really began, man. You know, because Bootsy had taken everything he learned from James Brown. I had taken everything I learned from James Brown, and put it on speed dial, and it just blew it up. You know, and that's where funk really began, in that studio in Detroit.
What was it like for you when you went out on the road with that whole scene? And I mean, the Mothership Earth tour and all that. I mean, did you take all that in, or how did you stay grounded, and what was it like for you?
Well, I didn't exactly stay grounded, but I took it all in, though. You know, it was amazing time. I think that was one of the first big time R&B type shows on the road. You know, Parliament-Funkadelic. It was an amazing show. You know, and they put together a circus. We had the Mothership would land on stage, and this crowd of people. I couldn't understand how we took maybe 40, 50 people around the whole world with that Mothership, the space thing, you know. And we made some history and made some good music at the same time. I never heard a band. Bootsy had tried to put the rubber band back together again. It can never happen like that again. It never will happen like that again.
Yeah, I have. No, can't find it right now, but so, and you're talking about playing on that tour, you know, especially, I mean, your trombone playing was great on that live released album that came out on, you know, Make My Funk the P-Funk.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that, love that.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you have like one experience that you can think of that was sort of the most memorable or unforgettable from, you know, that 70s to early 80s period when you were part of the P-Funk movement?
I remember we were doing a show with Shaka Khan. What's that group?
Rufus.
Rufus, yeah. We were doing it was still Rufus at that time, featuring Shaka Khan. And we were opening the show. We did the opening. Bootsy's Rubber Band, I'm talking about Bootsy's Rubber Band. Incidentally, this was the baddest band I ever played in. Bootsy's Rubber Band was tremendous band of costumes, you know, the first costume band I played in. Anyway, we had done this show. I mean, Rufus was gonna be on the show after us. We had, yeah, those are the cats. Amazing bunch of cats, yeah. All right. So that was we had done the show other nights, maybe 5 or 6 nights in a row, and but we got out there, and for some reason, this was in Orlando, Florida. It all came together that night. Bootsy came out with his bass, and he was. I can't tell you how thrilling to see that show. It really was a thrill to see it. You know, there's no shows like that now. No shows even come close to this now. You know, but it was an amazing thing how everything just locked together at that one time. You know, and from then on it was automatic. It happened every night. We would add stuff and take stuff out, but it all made everything made it better. It was the greatest show I ever played with.
I saw the Monster Rock tour in '78 at the LA Forum, and that was just unbelievable. I mean, I hear what you're saying. You guys were so tight and locked in, and he was so charismatic in the front. And you guys showed that cartoon, and you had the balloons and confetti that dropped down during, you know, Player of the Year, Hollywood Squares. It was incredible.
Yeah. And I was there. A lot of guys are not there now, you know. Passed on. Gary, Bernie, Glenn, Boogie, Peanut. A lot of guys. But they left their mark. They did leave their mark in the funk world.
Absolutely. Made a big difference in my life. I know that.